An LA prosecutor is going to ask a court to re-sentence the infamous brothers today after new evidence has come to light in their 30-year-old murder convictions.
They have been in prison for nearly 35 years. I believe that they have paid their debt to society.
Lyle and Eric Menendez are currently serving life sentences without parole for murdering their parents, Jose and Kitty, back in 1989. Now, the brothers have always claimed that they acted in self-defense against sexual abuse. An LA prosecutor, George Gaskin, says emerging evidence would have led possibly to a different decision. So for more, we're joined this morning by criminal defense attorney Sam Bassett. He is joining us from Texas and by phone this morning. Welcome to your morning.
Good morning.
Just a reminder for viewers, because it has been a few decades since their trial. The convictions and the sentencing came after their second trial. So before the brothers can even approach the issue of parole, a judge first needs to approve a resentencing on those convictions. What factors will the judge be considering?
I think the judge will be looking at the evidence in the case that was somewhat not permitted, which was the extensive evidence of abuse, that the brothers were abused by their parents or their father. And then they will also be looking at their behavior and their rehabilitative efforts when they were in prison. I think another factor would be the age they were at the time the crime was committed.
Yeah, and as a reminder to people, the so-called abuse excuse, which happened in their first trial, led to a hung jury, was not allowed as part of the second trial, and then the conviction came after that. Gaskin also says he wants a hearing within the next 45 days. We heard the clip there off the top. He wants them home for American Thanksgiving. How quickly could this all play out?
I think I understand there may be a hearing as soon as November, the end of November, for the judge to decide. And then once the judge decides, I think it goes to the Board of Pardons and Paroles.
So then what sentencing needs to be declared? What resentencing needs to happen in order for parole to be considered?
I think the recommendation of the DA is 50 to life, a 50 to life sentence rather than a life without parole. So if that is granted by the court, then the boys, the men now, would be immediately eligible for parole if the parole board approved.
And how long, typically, Sam, does that process take?
I would guess 3 to 6 months, but this may be expedited because of the focus on the case.
And this case has obviously seen a real spike in public interest after Monsters. That's the Netflix series last month. It dramatizes their case, as well as the documentary called The Menendez Brothers, also on Netflix. What role could this renewed attention, public attention, be playing into these developments, especially in the time that we're living now, where there's more understanding around victims of sexual abuse?
I think it does play a big role. You have to remember, most of the folks that are making these decisions are elected officials, and they're sensitive to public opinion. So they probably have been influenced to expedite this review because of the attention drawn due to the recent documentary and the recent Netflix series.
Also adding context to that, there is an election happening in Los Angeles. Could that possibly play into what we see around sentencing and eventually perhaps parole?
Yes, it all plays a role. That's absolutely correct.
All right, what fascinates you most, Mr. Bassett, about this case and the turnaround?
I think the turnaround, the timing of the turnaround and how quick it's turned around has been unusual. But we are living in a time where more factors are taken into account in determining criminal sentences, especially among youthful defendants.
Mr. Bassett, I want to thank you for joining us from Texas this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. All right.